Hello and welcome to the Malika Writes channel. My name is Malika Writes and today we are going to be doing a Q&A. So thank you so much for all of your questions, they really flooded in. Just to answer the first question on the list quickly, because it's sort of a question of how I get all these questions. I look at my YouTube comment section and I also look at my DMs on Instagram. So if you want to send me questions there, that's fine. I actually got quite a few of these questions from Instagram, so I'm just kind of going to go through them. So let's start with the first one. What are some of your favourite musicians or bands? So as I've mentioned before in one of my early videos, I like quite a few genres of music. I'm not too fussy when it comes to the genre. I mean, I like anything from classical to metal, so clearly not fussy. But if I had to say my favourite bands, musicians of all time, I would have to say, let me give you the list. The Verve, The Killers, Metallica, all of these are rock. Chris Stapleton, The White Buffalo. I would also have to say Burna Boy, Wizkid, Davido, Hans Zimmer, Celtic Woman, The High Kings. This is not a band, but they are a choir. It's the Dublin University Choir. I literally love everything that they produce. So they are going on there. Who else do I really like? I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of modern people. I've recently got into Taylor Swift. I didn't see that one coming. I thought Taylor Swift would be one of those people that I would just be immune to, but I've recently got into her music with, I think it's her Fairy Tale album. It's the one with Willow and Exile and all those songs. I actually really like them. So I like quite a lot of classical musicians as well. So a huge range, but those are just some of the bands I can think of off the top of my head. So next question. What do you think are the best cinematic adaptations of books besides Lord of the Rings? The Godfather Trilogy, hands down one of the best movie adaptations of a book. In fact, I think it's slightly better than the books just because it's a little bit more concise. There's not as much rambling. It's in the books there are characters that appear for no reason. Just for the fact that they're just there to be mentioned, essentially, and they have no other importance. So I think the author of The Godfather managed to really tidy up, because he directed the movies, so he managed to tidy up some of the things in the books that weren't perhaps the tidiest. What else? For me, I think that's probably the best that I can think of. There are others. I really like The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, adapted from a book of the same name by C.S. Lewis. Really good adaptation. I want to get around to watching the others, but that's the one I remember watching and actually really loving. I watched a bit of the second movie, Prince Caspian, and I remember that because Prince Caspian was attractive, so I remember it for that reason. Okay, let's see, the third question. What do you think of anime? I really enjoy anime. It's one of the genres of, would you call it film? Or yeah, film that I really enjoy. I know this is going to sound a bit generic, but I really do like Attack on Titan, and yeah, I was there before the whole hype came. I was there when it first got released and nobody really was talking about it that much. So I am entitled to say I like Attack on Titan without sounding like a newbie. Full Metal Alchemist, probably one of my favourite animes of all time. I also really like Nana. Not as well known, but it's a slice of life anime. One of my first animes, and I absolutely love it. Let's give a final one to Tokyo Ghoul. Again, one of the animes I really love. It's not just the violence of it; it's just the psychological trauma that is explored in Tokyo Ghoul season 1. I don't know what they were doing for the rest of the seasons, but season 1 is great. There are others that I love. Berserk, for example. I love the manga. The anime is great. There was a bit of a transition. I think they tried to reboot it at one point. I don't know how well that worked because by then I think I just moved on to watch something else. But those are just a few of the animes that I've watched, and I really do like it. I know it has this reputation of being for children in the West, but it really isn't. I don't think any person in their right mind would sit their child in front of Tokyo Ghoul and say, here's a cartoon for you to watch. It's not exactly what you would give to children. So that's kind of my thoughts on anime. I think it's something that needs to be taken a lot more seriously. I think with Attack on Titan being what it is and how it kind of got a new generation to look at anime and to take it seriously. So it's going in the right direction, and those are my thoughts. Okay. Next question. If the Terran Moral Office existed in real life, would you become a part of it? So this is Aragma's question. I would, because I do think that it fits nicely with what I do even on this channel, where I take books, works of literature. I haven't started analysing art yet. Might do that in the future, who knows. But I take creative works and explore them on this channel, and I try not to give advice. I don't think this is an advice channel, but just to give a view and open up a discussion, which is really what I'm trying to do, because it's hard to come up with a unique take on everything all the time, but I think to open up a discussion is what I try to do on this channel. And I do think that having discussions of this type is what helps people to progress and to become better people. So I would love to join this organisation if it were a real organisation. Let's see the next question. If you were stuck on a desert island, name one song, book, and item you would take. Okay, I'm going to be very boring and quite practical with my answers. The item I would take is a large bottle of water. I'm talking gallons worth of drinking water. That would be my item, because you're on an island. I can survive without food, but 3 days tops without water and I'm gone, especially if it's an island, the sun is going to be there. I'm going to be dehydrated very quickly. So for that, yeah, definitely water. For the book, I'm going to take the Bible. I told you I was going to be boring with this. I'm going to take the Bible. That is my pick, because I do need to stay sane throughout this entire experience, and also entertained. The Bible has a lot of fun stories that are entertaining, and yeah, to give me some hope as well. The song I would probably take Miss Atomic Bomb by The Killers. Where the lyrics are beautifully written, the actual song sounds great, and also I need something a little bit upbeat but then also sad at the same time to keep me grounded and to keep my mood level. So there are songs that I obviously love as well that I would take, but I think that's the most safe option. Because if you're on your own on a desert island, you don't want to take a song that's too melancholic, because yeah, that could end badly. You also don't want to take a song that's way too hyper, because that would get old very quickly. So I would take a song I could probably listen to again and again and again without getting tired, and Miss Atomic Bomb by The Killers is one of those songs. So, okay. What advice would you give your teenage self? And any advice for teens in general? The advice I would give myself when I was a teenager in my wilder days, I would say that every experience is a lesson, and at the end of the day, you're going to die. So it's best to live a life that when you die, there's no reason to come back. That if you were given the option to come back, there would be no need. And that doesn't mean go and live a hedonistic lifestyle. It means live a life that you can be proud of, that shows that even the mistakes you made worked out to some better outcome. So that's the advice I would give to myself as a teenager, and that's probably the advice I would give to teenagers as well, because as teenagers we tend to, when I was a teenager, I tended to think I was invincible. I mean, I have a few stories from when I was a teen, but we're gonna save those for another day because they are a bit wild. But you do think that you are invincible. You do think that nothing can happen to you, so you take a bunch of crazy risks. And then when you become an adult, you realize that even if you don't have children, even if you're not married, even if you are living alone, you still have responsibilities. You still have a duty to the people who love you, to not just remain alive in the larger sense, but also to live a life that they can be proud of and that you can be proud of as well. You are part of a community, and your actions, the main consequence is borne by you. But the people who love you bear some of the consequences too. The people who choose to stay by your side bear the consequences, even if it's a small part, but it is a part anyway. So that's the advice I would give to teenagers, is live a life worthy of not just yourself, but of the sacrifice that others have made for you. No one is entirely self-made. Sacrifices have been made to get you where you are and to get you to this point. So that's my advice for teens. Okay. What tips do you have for budding writers? Okay. When it comes to writing, it can be a very personal endeavor, but then you also have to keep in mind that writing is a commercial endeavor, and it's also one that has rules. We like to say that English is very subjective, but let's not take that too far. There is an objectivity when it comes to English that has to be acknowledged, and academia doesn't really do that, but you as a writer, if you want to have any success, you do have to acknowledge that there is some objectivity to writing. The most obvious ones are you have to put something down. Like there has to be, there are people who've made a joke about it and just published blank books, but those are jokes. Everyone gets it. If you want to be a writer, you have to write something. That's just one of the objective stuff, and that's very obvious, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many people that isn't obvious to. So here are my tips for writing. The first one, you cannot be a writer if you do not read. That's just the first one. Anyone who thinks you can pen a book without reading before, during, and after the process, I don't know what to tell you except that you're not going to be very successful. And success is varying degrees. Some people think success is J.K. Rowling's billions type of money, and some people think success is just getting your book out there. You're not going to be successful if you do not read before, during, and after the process of writing. That's rule number one. The second piece of advice that I would give to people who are just starting out, so budding writers, is that go out of your comfort zone. Because when you write within what you're comfortable with, you're always going to be within a framework that doesn't push you to do anything other than what is easy. The default position for people is to do what is easy and what does not require a lot of effort. If you want to produce something that will astound you, that will please you, you do need to go outside of your comfort zone. Do something that you've not done before. Do something that makes you uncomfortable. Writing is a very emotive exercise. When you write, you explore things that you may not have even thought of exploring before. You explore things that maybe you wanted to keep hidden, but you find they come out in your writing. So I would advise pushing yourself, because once you tap into that raw emotion, when you tap into the things that are difficult to say, that's when you start to get to the real meat of it. The third piece of advice I would give budding writers is be consistent. A lot of people think of inspiration as something that just hits you from God knows where and it's just floating in the ether. That's not how inspiration works. You do have to be consistent, and that requires discipline. So for budding writers, if you struggle with discipline, as we all do at some point, just keep that in mind, that your writing is going to suffer as a result of that, and look for ways to boost your motivation. Look for ways to boost your discipline. Look for ways to exercise sitting down at a certain time, or sitting down for a certain amount of minutes and writing, because it's consistency that's ultimately going to produce something. If you haven't been consistent, you'll know. No one has to tell you. I mean, you are responsible enough to undertake this endeavour, so that responsibility lies on you. And I think that those are probably the three biggest things that I would tell to a budding writer. Because the chances are, if you want to write, you've already got the creativity down. You've already got some idea of what you want to write. You've already gotten some idea of how the framework of writing goes. But what is not often emphasized are the three things I mentioned. What's often forgotten and gets lost in the, writing is subjective and creativity and just go with the flow, is the discipline, is the consistency, is, the ability to read and actually read. And I would recommend Francine Prose, because she teaches you how to read like a writer and not just reading like a casual reader. Because one of the big sacrifices, and yeah, let me add a fourth, because I think this needs to be said. Writing is going to require sacrifice, and it doesn't have to be big. It may just be as little as you need to put aside some time to write, but it could be as big as you need to talk about things that are very traumatic for you in order to tap into a very real experience and to make the reader feel something, and not just tell them, but to make them actually feel it. So it does require sacrifice. It requires hours, and a book is never written, it's rewritten. The first draft is always rubbish. So it's always rewritten. It's never first go perfect. That's my advice. I hope that any budding writers are encouraged by this. It's not to put you off, it's actually to encourage you and to give you the practical steps. I believe in being practical because that way you can actually get it done. Let's see. What is your Hogwarts house, and do you know your Patronus and wand? I actually do. I was a big Harry Potter fan. I think I still am. I think it's fair to say that I still am a big Harry Potter fan. So my Hogwarts house is Slytherin. I don't know how many people would have guessed that. But yeah, it's always been Slytherin. Every time I've taken a test, except this one time where I got Ravenclaw, but every other time that I've taken the test, I've always gotten Slytherin. I think people who know me very well are not going to be shocked by that. So, my Patronus is a hyena of all creatures. Anyone who's watched The Lion King is probably side-eyeing me right now, but yeah, it's a hyena. My wand is a black walnut wood and dragon heartstring. Apparently that means I'm stubborn. So some people who know me may agree with that. I obviously disagree, but if you were in the Lord of the Rings, what would you be? Everyone always says an elf, but I personally think I would just be a human being. I would probably be a Numenorian, but I would still be a human. I might be in love with an elf. That might be a thing. And let's actually have an elf pairing where the human woman and the elf actually get together, not just... Yeah, I would be that pairing. Okay, let me stop while I'm still being sensible. If you were an animal, what animal would you be and why? If I were an animal, I would be a raven. The reason for this is because out of all birds, I probably liked ravens the most because they usually represent fate. They usually represent foresight, foreknowledge, and these are important concepts to me, so probably a raven. I'm going to add another tidbit to this because I feel like talking about my special hatred for seagulls. Seagulls are birds that, in my mind, are the feathery antichrist, and no one can convince me otherwise. In fact, I challenge you to convince me otherwise in the comment section. If you can find something good to say about these incarnations of the devil, I don't know, maybe I will do a whole video about the positive sides of seagulls. If you manage to convince me, we can debate this out in the comment section, because there is nothing good about seagulls. These creatures are horrible. These creatures are a menace to society. And I'm going to stop now while I'm just going to stop now while I'm still being calm, because seagulls are just... I don't like seagulls, in case you couldn't tell. Right, so let me just end this video. Thank you so much for all the questions. I really enjoy answering these. I try to make these as spontaneous as possible so they're different from my more scripted videos. I hope you enjoy it as well. I definitely enjoy it, if you couldn't tell by that little seagull rant at the end. Thank you for watching the video. It really means a lot. And for anyone who missed the start of the video, I get my questions from the YouTube comment section and from my DMs, so you can send me a DM on Instagram and I will answer your questions in the next Q&A. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Malika Writes channel.